You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
I'm Stephen Cabral, and I am looking forward to today's show. I love each and every Mindset and Motivation Monday, partially because it gets me in the right mindset. It helps me really start my week off right. And then, like I said before, I'm a big believer that if you don't get the beginning of the week right, if you don't get Mondays right or Sunday nights right, you're playing catch up the whole week. And again, like I'm so big really on time. I've realized, and again, this comes from just, I think being sick and just really not feeling well and just watching your life just slip by. I mean, that's the honest truth. And I know so many people are struggling with that now, whether they're not in a job they love, they're not in a body they love because they're either overweight or they feel inflamed, their joints hurt. It affects your quality of life. And when it affects your quality of life and it affects your actual physical body, that affects your brain. So many people are separating their brain and how they think actually from their body, but the two are ultimately connected at the end of the day. And they're connected because your brain is actually attached to your spinal cord, which then innervates. It basically has all the nerve endings come off of it. And they're getting signals back and forth. So it's not a one-way street. I mean, that's just not how the body works. Like your brain doesn't tell what your body to do and then that's it. You get those sensory information from your skin, from your body, from everything, from your gut, even up that vagus nerve to the brain. So all of this is truly, truly connected. And what I want to talk about today, though, is one of the reasons why I'm such a big believer that I honestly believe that anyone can change their life no matter what position you're in right now, whether it's financial hardship or you're just not in a career that you love right now, or the relationship you're in isn't that great, or you're really suffering because of some type of autoimmune based issue or digestive issue, some type of bloating, some type of, constipation, or maybe that you're literally, you just can't lose weight. You're just struggling to keep the weight off. And honestly, every carb that you look at, you just put on weight just looking at them. So I believe all of those things can be changed. I honestly do. And the truth is, I see them happen every single day inside my practice, and not just my practice. I see it happening all over the world when people understand that there are other alternatives to what they're doing right now. And that's the problem. Before people come to see me, or before we get on a Skype consultation, they've literally seen a half a dozen other specialists, and everyone is just approaching it from this like single source insult almost to their body, meaning like, okay, if you have digestive issues, then obviously there's something going on with, let's just say, some type of constipation, right? So they're going to give you a medication that's going to work as a laxative. And as you heard, if you listened in on this weekend's Cabral house call, I've answered so many questions about constipation. And we know that constipation can be so many different things. I'm not going to go down that path right now because I did answer that. What I want to tell you, what today's show is all about is that you have to understand the reason you haven't achieved your goals right now, any goal, the reason you haven't, and I'm going to give examples, the reason you haven't achieved your goal right now is simply because you're not asking the right questions. And what does that mean? It means this, that your life, ultimately the results you get are due to the quality of the questions that you ask. Because if you ask better questions, you get better results because the answers you come up with directly affect the result that you're trying to achieve. And if you don't even know the right questions to ask, and again, I'm going to give examples. If you don't know the right questions to ask, how can you possibly figure out a solution? You can't. You just keep asking the same questions over and over, and of course, you get the same results. You're doing your best. There's no doubt about that. Of course, you're doing your best. You're doing the best that you can physically and mentally do right now, but it's not enough. And it will never be enough, unfortunately, until you start to actually see that what you're doing right now, more of it is not going to work. The questions that you're asking, the questions that you're solving right now are not the right answer. So yeah, you can absolutely solve those questions that you're asking, but they're not the right ones. They're simply not. And what I'd like to do is right now is give you an actual, from my practice, wellness-based example, and I want to give you an actual weight loss-based example of how people, they're going about it all wrong. So right now, again, in the US, Heart disease is obviously a major issue, right? People dying of heart attacks, people having artery-based clogging, all sorts of issues related to high cholesterol, and statins are one of the most popular drugs in the world. Statins are absolutely unnecessary in 99.99999% of the cases, unless there's some congenital-based issue where someone, believing that slowing, weakening your heart, because that's what a statin does, will actually be helpful. Maybe I'll give that to them, but for actual reducing of cholesterol, unneeded, completely unnecessary, in my opinion. And it's an opinion that I see play out every day in my practice. That's why I see that. I've had people come to me with cholesterol over 300. Well over 300. In LDL, about 200. Those people, within a period of 6 to 12 weeks, will reduce their cholesterol to a normal range. What is a normal range? Well, a normal range has more to do with your actual total cholesterol to your HDL and making sure that your ratio is in order, and also looking at your LDL and also your VLDL. So when you're looking at the LDL, we'll call that the bad cholesterol because that's how everyone refers to it. We want to make sure that goes down. That's oftentimes a product of inflammation, but it's not the only case, right? So people are taking these statins, but they're just taking them for unnecessary reasons. And remember, statins can actually, they can help lower your cholesterol, no doubt about it. I'm not saying that, but they can actually cause their own form of heart disease, meaning they can weaken your heart. They can block coenzyme Q10 production, so your heart actually gets weakened. Did you know that it's actually contraindicated to exercise if you're taking a statin drug? When's the last time you've ever had a doctor tell you if you're taking a statin drug not to exercise? They didn't, and they don't, but they should. And the reason is it makes your heart weaker. It can leave you more susceptible to cardiovascular-based damage. But again, no one says that. So let's give you an example of why you might actually have high cholesterol. God forbid we actually try to figure out what the underlying root causes of why someone has high cholesterol instead of just putting them on a statin, which actually negatively affects their heart and can actually shorten their life. So here's the reasons why. And these are just some, but these are the main ones. Right now, you could have actually some liver-based congestion, some type of liver-based issue that's causing an overproduction of cholesterol, or more likely a lack of ability to actually remove cholesterol from the bloodstream. And there are actually genetic susceptibility to this as well. And when you know your genetics, when you run a genetic test, you can actually look at your alleles. Do you have a 2, 3, or 4 allele? And you get one copy of each from your mother, one copy from your father. And if you have a 4 allele in there, you are someone, even if you're taking the best types of saturated fat, you are someone who's not going to be able to, as well as your counterparts, remove that cholesterol from your bloodstream. So would a very high paleo-based, animal-based protein and eggs be great for you? No. That's just the bottom line. No. The answer is no. And you can look at that in genetics. That's when we get into real science rather than just the gurus saying that this is the best for everyone. So that's not best for those people. Now, it's a smaller percentage of the population, but it's still, that matters. Okay, what else could be an issue? Gallbladder, connected to the liver, not able to remove that cholesterol because of stagnation of the gallbladder. A good liver cleanse, actually softening that bile, will absolutely help. Constipation will not allow for that removal of cholesterol as well. High levels of stress. No one talks about this, but when your body's under a lot of stress, when it needs to produce more cortisol, guess what's a precursor to cortisol? Cholesterol. You can't make cortisol without cholesterol, no matter how hard you try. You need cholesterol. And 80% of your cholesterol comes from your liver, not from your food. Really important to look at these things. Inflammation. Why would your body produce more cholesterol if you have inflammation? Well, you have these microscopic tears in your arteries. Guess what cholesterol does? It acts like masonry gel. Basically, it goes over those arterial tears, and it calcifies. It actually keeps a nice little, it's a Band-Aid basically. It's a patch so that you don't have greater blowouts in the arteries. Very important. Cholesterol makes sense in that situation, right? Another reason, what if you're someone's in more of a catabolic state, right? The body's breaking down too much. Those red blood cells are being broken down too much. The actual bilipid membrane, that means the fats of every cell in your body, trillions of cells in your body, they need sterols. Well, sterol is a precursor to that as well. That it is the sterol. It is the hard fats that help to shore up and strengthen those cell membranes. Remember, when someone comes into my practice, they say, I have high cholesterol. I say, okay, it's not a disease. It's a dis-ease of the body. High cholesterol is a symptom. There's no disease there. No disease at all. You weren't most likely born with high cholesterol. That's not the case. There's always a reason why. We can find and figure out that reason. But remember, what did I just do? I asked better quality questions. I said, why? Why is there high cholesterol? And now I know those reasons. Then I explain those reasons to you. So now you can check that out for yourself. I'm going to go real quick through weight loss because I know so many people, they want to lose the weight. They want to take it off, but they can't. And they've tried every diet. They've tried the whole this. They've tried the digestive this. They've tried the, low carb that, the high carb, the carb lovers, the don't eat after sunset, whatever it might be. They've tried them all. Okay, great. Well, that's just diet alone. But let's ask better quality questions. How's your blood sugar? What's your fasting blood sugar when you wake up? If it's not below 95, you're not burning body fat. We need to control the sugar first. How's your insulin? When's the last time you've had your hemoglobin A1C checked? Just next time you go into your doctor's, check my hemoglobin A1C. Check it out. Look what it is. What about your hormones? Do you have high cortisol? What about estrogen dominance? Such a huge issue with women and men as well. But what about women for the most part? Do you have a tendency to gain more weight 5 to 7 days before you get your period? Do you have more of those premenstrual symptoms 5 to 7 days before you get your period? Do you find yourself putting on more weight around the hips? Look at these specific things. You can run an adrenal hormone lab to look at all of that. You can also run our weight loss lab or a thyroid lab to look at that as well. What's your thyroid levels like, right? And then only after you look at those numbers, then you can say, okay, well then let's look at when am I having my carbohydrates, right? Am I splitting them up during the day? What meals am I having them at? Is fruit okay? What fruits are okay? Exercise. Am I over-exercising? Am I doing too much? Am I causing more high, cortisol in my body? Am I causing more breakdown? So again, you have to ask those good quality questions. I'm telling you, when you start to explore, when you say, you know what? I've kind of reached as much as I can do, right? You've gotten the best results that you can get. Honestly, if you put in a good effort and you've tried and you still haven't achieved your results that you want, that's not your fault. You've done your best. What is now, it's your job now to to level up yourself, to take your education to that next level, to start to explore other reasons why. Don't go by what your friend's doing. Don't go by what your, PCP might be saying. And again, I'm not saying bad things about PCPs at all. I'm not. If you have you should go for a yearly physical. If you have any acute-based issues, you should absolutely talk to your PCP. And again, I love the medical system. I absolutely do for acute-based issues. If I'm having any heart issues, if I'm anything acute-based, remember, I'm referring right over to there. Best technology in the world. Love being in Boston. Love Mass General. Beth Israel. Harvard, MIT, all the research going on. Love that. I use the state-of-the-art testing. However, for chronic-based issues, you're not going to figure out your answers there. You're not. Unless your PCP MD is also a well-trained natural medicine doctor with a functional medicine specialty as well. It's going to be nearly impossible because they don't run the right subclinical labs and they don't ask the right questions. Okay? So anyway, today... After all that, right? I have to try to wrap this up. And again, I feel like I want to just keep teaching, but I can't. I do want to respect everyone's time, and everyone does appreciate the shorter podcasts. So I'll touch on all the topics. My goal really, 2017, I'm going to attack every topic one by one. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, Hashimoto's, SIBO, Crohn's, colitis, you name it. I'm going to tackle them all. I really am. But again, I'm only one man with only so much time, and I have a busy practice, and I have, a family, and I have all these different things. But I'm going to tackle them one by one. And again, I teased it over the weekend, but I have a very comprehensive, but I'm going to condense it down to 200 pages so it's very readable, very usable for everyone. I have a book coming out this spring, and I'm telling you, it is going to change the way that we look at our bodies, change the way that we look at medicine, because it is the accumulation of 20 years of myself on this journey. And of course, 200,000 now client appointments that I've had the privilege of overseeing and actually working with in my practice as well. So, a little teaser, but hopefully today it just started to get you thinking differently, right? That's what Mondays are about. They're about exploration. It's a fresh start to the week. We can do so much. We do have the time. We have the opportunity. And really, with the ability to search out a great practitioner and these subclinical lab tests, you have that power. I want you to understand that you have the power, and I want you to take control of your life because you absolutely can. And when you start believing and you start asking those good quality questions, you'll see your life turn around. You really will. I honestly believe that. Have a great day, everyone, and I so look forward to talking with you again tomorrow on the Cabral Concept. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only two ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.